Mick Gillispie. We're here, Knoxville, Tennessee. It's hot in the summertime. We're in the broadcast booth, the air conditioning, which is certainly very nice. Why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about yourself, your kind of background? I know you've got a wide variety. You do baseball, you do some football, and it's kind of exciting. You have a great story to tell. So why don't you tell everybody about what your story is a little bit?
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I get to call sports, talk about games on the radio and sometimes television for a career, and I enjoy it. I've been the Smokies broadcaster since the Cubs moved from the other side of Tennessee here to Knoxville, at least East Tennessee area. And they hired me for the job. It was a really great opportunity, and I've loved it. I get to do spring training with Len Casper and the Cubs every year. That's about 25 games in Arizona at the beginning of the year with the big league team. So a lot of the players who have come through here and have made stops with the Smokies, I'll get to follow their careers, and hopefully, my ambition is to get there and work in the major leagues every day, instead of just spring training. But I work pre and post game for Alabama football. I do the SEC network, so play-by-play there some, and high school football, and then anything else that I can kind of get my hands into. Even a baseball talk show that comes on Saturdays that's been fun to do.
Well, look at this. You're with the Cubs organization, champion in 2016 great seasons. You're Alabama. I mean, it just seems like championships ooze all around you. I mean, here you are, whether it's maybe it's just luck, maybe it's good timing, maybe you're bringing good luck to everybody, but looking at this is covering all the different sports that you cover. How different is broadcasting from a baseball game to a pregame show? I mean, are those things that you can kind of flow in between that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I love it. I remember just talking about being around Alabama and then, working here. I was at a dinner sitting with Tom Ricketts, and I said the minute that Nick Saban took over, there was just a difference. And I kind of felt that way the minute he hired Theo Epstein, to be honest with you. I could just tell that something had changed. And, both of those organizations, just forget about the sports in general, but they're run by maybe the best ever in their field. So I'm fortunate because I get to be around it. But at the same time, everything has to work out perfectly for it to happen. You have to have Nick Saban available for Alabama to hire, right? Are willing to leave the NFL, and Theo Epstein had to be available for Tom and his family to go out and get the best. But the minute that Theo took over, there's been a difference in our organization, and it's obvious that he's the greatest executive ever. So, with that said, me, I'm just like I said, just the guy that gets to watch it, from the minor league perspective mostly, but sometimes the big league perspective during spring training, and it really has been phenomenal. The players that the Cubs have drafted and developed, Chris Bryant was with us earlier this week, right? Was it this week? It's amazing, how fast everything happens. But he's hitting a home run here Monday, and then you turn around and he's hitting one for the Cubs on Wednesday. But a special person too. Javi Baez, always one of the all-time favorites for me, just as a baseball nut who used to play. I watch him, and it's not the home runs and the RBIs, it's the home runs and the RBIs and the base running and the leadership and the fire and the intelligence. For KB, he reminded me of Cal Ripken the minute I saw him. Here's a big guy that plays as many games as he can. He loves the game. Simple to the fact that he just loves playing. And he's a cornerstone piece. But getting to talk about those guys and describing the moments that they have, the broadcast angle for me is I just want to stay out of the way and do a good job of making the call, and let the fans enjoy the game and not really interfere in that too much.
Mick, you're a storyteller. And you talk about, the players and how it is, and we talked about a few players. When I've walked around here, I look on the wall and I see all these great Cubs now that have come through here.
Yeah.
And how fun has that been for you to learn about these guys and see them move on and tell their story?
We were in spring training, and Len Casper had made a comment about this is the good old days. This is the glory days right now for the Cubs. And I remember growing up in Baltimore in the 80s, and the Orioles were kind of on the tail end of the glory days. They won the World Series in '83, and they had Ripken and Murray and, just all the other players that were part of that. Jim Palmer, who had played in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in all those World Series games and won. He's the only guy still that has ever won a World Series in 3 different decades and got a win in a game as a pitcher, And I remember I opened up the Baltimore Sun and I see this layout of all these great Orioles from the past, and Len says this, and we're looking over the backfields at spring training and the teams about to stretch, and I see Rizzo and Bryant and Baez and Russell and Willie's out there, and I'm looking around and I'm like, that newspaper had popped back in my head again. I'm like, there's someone out there that's pulling up the newspaper right now, maybe the Tribune, and they're looking at this, and they're kind of having that same, thought, like, wow, this is one of the greatest collections of players that this franchise has ever had, So I'm lucky because I've been able to see those guys come through here and develop as people and as great players, and then to be able to watch the 2016 World Series and what that meant to me, and to be a small part of that. I tell the stories of the players that the stories that I've seen, and I've been lucky, because I've seen these guys come through and seen some amazing stuff happen out on the field.
Couple quick questions. What's it like working with the Tennessee Smokies organization? I mean, it seems like it's a well-run organization, just recently been purchased in the last few years, by new ownership. I mean, have you seen the commitment to winning? I know minor league baseball is about talent development, but it seems like there's a momentum here, excitement. Like last night on Sunday night, we watched, one in the 9th inning, and just the excitement for winning.
Yeah, when Randy Boyd bought our team, I met him, and the first person I thought of was Tom Ricketts. I said, this guy's like another Tom Ricketts. He loves the game of baseball. He cares deeply about us, his employees, and he doesn't take himself too seriously. He's just a regular guy, and I just thought, and I told him, I said, you got to meet Tom, because you're going to love him. He's a fantastic person and great owner. And the other thing is that those guys are successful because they invest in great people and then get out of the way and let them do their job. Not all owners are like that, And so they've become really good friends over the years and have a lot in common. Our team here is different than other minor league teams. Randy, our owner, just spent, I don't know, $900,000 to redo the Smokies clubhouse and to give them the best training facility in this league and possibly in AA baseball. And it's not because we got a new stadium. It's because his commitment to his friend Tom and the Cubs is one that he wants to make sure that, as he calls it, the pillars of success, right? The Cubs being part of that, are happy with what they're getting from us. So we've renovated the stadium in his 6 years owning the team, and he's taking great care of us. And then he goes out and builds them a clubhouse that is top notch, in a ballpark that's over 20 years old but still in great shape. That's really special to be a part of. And then our fans, East Tennessee has some of the best fans, and Cubs fans. I mean, look, it's a nation of people. Everywhere we go, we have people that are going to show up and they're going to have the Cubs look on, the gear, and they're going to be cheering loud. And our fans, like you mentioned, last night's game, down 6 runs. And in the 9th inning, you still have a great crowd there when we won with the walk-off. It's because these people here care about the game and the players and the team. But ironically, like Randy, a lot like Tom, Smokies fans, a lot like Cubs Nation. They're passionate too, and they're the best fans.
Mick, I don't think this is the last time we're going to see you. I mean, we're going to be down. We travel all around, but I have a feeling if something comes open somewhere higher up, but I mean, I know you love what you do right here in the Cubs organization, and I look forward to seeing you in spring training next year out there. It's quite a thing to go out there and do that with the Mesa facility, and I mean, you're just such a fabulous storyteller, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us on Sports Report. We've got 75,000 crazy diehard Cubs fans that log on and listen to this stuff, and you're one of the best. And I just want to say thank you.
Hey, no problem. I say this, I've been a Cubs fan, ironically, for a long, long time. Long before I ever thought that I would be around the team in a small part of the organization. But when I was a kid, we had WGN on, and it was Harry and Steve, And I had my American League team, and I needed a National League team, and then we moved, and I didn't have my American League team anymore. I had my Cubs, and it was Rhino, who I've become friends with, and Dunston, and Gracie, and Jody Davis, who's a good friend of mine now. And you just go through those names, and but at the top of the list was Harry. Harry, just sitting there watching Harry, and there's no one that's ever done this better than Harry when it comes to telling stories and being honest and not being afraid to tell it like you see it. That's tough, but Harry was the absolute best. It was good to see you guys.
Mick, thank you so much.